through better logistics. A significant portion of productivity gains come from efficient movement of goods and information. Consider one of the biggest initiatives that we will have in the hemisphere over the next 10 years, which is the Panama Canal. In nearly 100 years, almost 1 million vessels have passed through the canal, slashing thousands of miles off trips with each crossing. And now we're headed toward a new expansion of the Panama Canal. What we call the Panamax ships will soon be larger. The canal is doubling its capacity. And what we are seeing is that every single port in the hemisphere will be impacted by this new capacity of the Panama Canal. So it will require new investments in ports and logistics infrastructure throughout the hemisphere. One example, Chile will be investing up to $1 billion between now and 2020 in its port terminals, in part due to larger ships. I was just speaking recently with President Vázquez of Uruguay. They have a major project in the port of Montevideo. Every time I speak to someone from a different country, they have something going on with ports. In the U.S., we need to double our port capacity over the next 10 years. And we know that ports that don't increase their ability to take bigger ships will be at a competitive disadvantage. But the opportunity is great. The opportunity for the whole hemisphere to be a lot more efficient. 4 years ago, another example, the Colombian flower industry was faced with delays at Colombian airports of up to 13 hours. Improved logistics coordination has cut delays to less than 3 hours. And refrigerator transportation capacity and technology has improved. As a result, today consumers in Europe, in Asia, in the US receive millions of Colombian flowers each day that are fresher than ever. And that is a tremendous logistics challenge and a logistics feat. With energy prices increasing, getting goods to market quickly and efficiently, as we know, is more and more critical. And you've seen studies recently that suggest that because of the price of energy and because of what it does to freight costs, that it becomes more efficient to trade in our own hemisphere instead of going far away to bring in goods. That's also an advantage for the Western Hemisphere. One example of things that we're doing close to home, crossings between San Diego County and Baja California, Mexico. Crossings in terms of delays cost the U.S. and Mexican economies an estimated 19,000 jobs. The delays in our border, 19,000 jobs and about $3.3 billion in annual output. So you can imagine there is a lot of work going on to improve our ability to get trucks flowing quickly, to decrease the amount of time that trucks are sitting idly. Here's another interesting statistic. The amount of goods that move from Canada to the U.S. through the Ambassador Bridge is greater than all of our exports to Japan. And Japan is our third or fourth largest trading partner. So, again, people today, teams on both sides, are looking at the best way to expand capacity, that bridge capacity, crossing from the U.S. to Canada and from Canada to the U.S. That is a big deal. If we can't get that right, then we're going to impact our ability to grow. The flip side is, if we get it right, we'll have a tremendous advantage in terms of cost and capacity. Just as logistics can be either a bottleneck or an opportunity, so can access to essential resources such as water and power. In Mexico, the Monterrey landfill methane gas power plant provides electricity for lighting in the evening and powering the metro system during the day. They've turned the problem of landfill emissions into a valuable resource. Probably the best example that I can think of in the world in terms of having a vision and a long-term strategy for energy is Brazil. As you know, Brazil is a leader in the development of biofuels, and the progress that they've made has been dramatic. In fact, they've gone from a net energy importer to an exporter in large part due to biofuels, especially ethanol, producing more than 25 billion liters a year. What impresses me the most about Brazil is that not only do they produce a lot of oil, but back some years ago they had the foresight to diversify into biofuels. And today they are seeing the benefits of that diversification. In the U.S., President Bush is encouraging Congress to fund biofuels and fuel cell technology programs, but also to allow the development of oil shales, oil sands, and to produce more oil in our own country. We have more oil that we can produce if we are willing to drill in our outer continental shelf in an environmentally sound way. Much more research, education, and investment will be needed globally to meet the world's growing energy needs. And as we know, alliances between business, government, and academia today are more important than ever. And we are seeing, what we see a lot of is companies investing in a university along with the government to develop new products. And this is happening in a university throughout the hemisphere. We are also seeing local officials, such as Mayor Franklin, such as governors. We had one great example of the governor of Córdoba in Argentina. That governor has taken on the task of attracting investment. So it's no longer a federal task. It's no longer a federal preoccupation. It's down to mayors, to governors, doing partnerships with universities, partnerships with business, to be able to have a better environment for capital to come in and to create jobs. I saw an example just recently of progress in education. I actually heard of the example, and many of you, I think, have heard the same thing. In Uruguay, they have now achieved the point where every single child in school has a computer. You talk about progress and talk about an investment that will pay off over the long haul. That is progress. And in the U.S., in every single country, North, Central, South America, the Caribbean, the challenge, as we know, is education. We have, in some countries, 50% of the people, 20% of the people that aren't participating, that aren't contributing, even though they can contribute, even though we know they can add a lot to our growth, to our economy. They need one thing: access to education. And if whoever can figure that out faster than others will have a tremendous competitive advantage. There's a lot going on in this country. There's a lot going on in every single country. President Gutierrez was talking yesterday about a program in Colombia where parents are being given a fund to ensure that their kids go to school as long as they have the grades. And that way they don't have to send their kids to work. Instead, they send them to go to school. There are programs like that throughout the hemisphere, and that is the difference between our growth in 5, 10, 20, 30 years. Education is the big equalizer. And I hope